Well, welcome everyone. Happy Friday. Thank you for making time out of your busy beginning of school weeks to join us for this training. My name is Ryan Gomes. I'm joined with my coworker and West Coast manager as well, Claire Coffey. We're here to talk through a handful of food service topics to get you started for this school year. Here's the exciting part is everyone on this call, all of our clients, we have no new clients, or I should say no new SFAs this year. So all of our clients, all of you have done this for at least a year, if not much longer. So, we're in today's training, we're going to spend some time doing some deeper dives and I think some topics that you might want a little extra clarification on. So we'll talk about USDA updates. We'll go over back to school basics, but I want to spend some time talking about competitive foods, wellness policies, meal accommodations, and then we'll talk about vendor and order management at the end. I'm sure that's on your radar this time of the school year. I also always want to introduce our team. We have a slide like this every year, and I think we add more faces to it every year. So School Food Solutions is growing. We're still, it's still the same service, but we've got more people to support you. We also just have a lot more schools we work with. And so a couple of things I want to just reset about what we do. So we've grown, but we still offer the same support and services, but hopefully you feel like we're more accessible to you. And a couple of things, if you didn't know, I want you to know a few things here. First of all, our eligibility team has grown. This is Grace and Andy, our team of interns. These are the folks that you send your free and reduced applications to, your alternative income forms to, your universal benefit applications to. These are the folks that can answer questions about eligibility. They'll send you status lists on a weekly basis during this time of the year. They're also the people that can help you out with point of sale setup questions. And Forms is our secure, very responsive email box that's checked by multiple people multiple times a day. So if you've got an urgent eligibility question, they're the people to send them to. We've also got our claims team. This is headed by Kelly, and Claire supports her closely. This is where finance questions can go. This is where we will send out your monthly claim summaries and submission confirmations. This is where you can send payment questions. We also ask you to forward invoices from your vendor to us. If you need more time submitting a claim, or if you have claim count questions or claim count issues, this is the email box to send it to. Again, Claire and I are always here to support you, but these are our other shared boxes. They're also, part of our company, and you're going to expect emails from them on a monthly basis. Two other things that all of you have. You may not remember where it is, but I assure you have these. Number one is a shared claims tracker in Google Sheets. This functions, so all clients have these. This will be your total meal counts, your total claims, and your total invoice payments, and then a running year-to-date total of, are you in the black or in the red, right? How is your program doing? This is a great sort of health report card and something we can review on your monthly check-in calls. It's also something that your finance team may want to see, and so they should be receiving that with your claims. Again, it's the same document. You can bookmark it, but it's sent out with your claims confirmations every month. The other thing that all clients have is a shared check-in document. This is something that it's usually linked in your, if we have a call scheduled, it'll be linked in the calendar invite. It's also something you can bookmark and you'll have full edit access to. It's a running history of all of our conversations. If you know, every conversation you have with us, every scheduled call has an agenda, and we take notes. This is also where we link resources. This is, if you're new, and took over for someone and they didn't leave you great notes, this might be a great place to see kind of the history of how we've supported your school over the years. The longer you're with us, the longer this document gets. And so there's a lot of information in here. And it's something that, it's to help you stay on track and also to help hold us accountable, right? So if you have questions you want to ask us, this is a great place to add them. We'll address them on our next check-in call. So again, these are all things you can expect from School Food Solutions. We've also got our other beginning of year training. So kind of want to talk about what we're not going to talk about today. So if your brain, so one of the things that came out with the invite to get you to this training is 2 videos of pre-review training. This is, vended meal basics and are also our in-depth offer versus serve trainings. These were these were similar, or these are the ones that you attended last year, most likely. For new staff, these are great to 1 and 2 are great to rewatch for new folks. If you just need a refresh, level 2 will probably tell you everything you need. We're not going to do a deep dive into offer versus serve. So if you want a deeper refresh, these are the videos to watch. We also have additionally, we're not going to talk mealtime or point of sale function on this call today, but we're always happy to schedule a specific point of sale training with your team where we can do a screen share with your actual mealtime or Titan point of sale, show you exactly how it works, and help you learn to run reports and things like that. So if you want a detailed training, we're happy to schedule another one of those. The other thing we're not going to talk about today is FRL, or Universal Benefit Application Processing. Our forms team had sent out emails with these pre-recorded trainings earlier this school year. Some schools do different processes, so some schools get different trainings. If you're unsure, or if you need that again, we're happy to resend. Just reach out to us directly and we'll forward that over to you. Also, whether you're taking our trainings or someone else's trainings, because there's a lot of good content out there, you get credit for it. So if you are taking other online trainings or going to in-person trainings, be sure to save documentation of what you did. Those can count towards your professional standards hours. All right, let's move on to our first section. We're going to talk about state and federal updates right now. Let's start state of California first. Good news. So within the revised budget that was signed into law in July, universal meals has been fully funded. The state has put additional money behind the program. Next year, and hopefully going forward, breakfast and lunch will still be available at no cost to all kids in California. That's great news. They did even more. They also are going to have additional infrastructure grants that are going to be available. Details forthcoming. These will be competitive. So these aren't just raise your hand and you get the money like the last KIP funds. We will need to, select a specific project and then write a grant for it. But if you've got additional things you want to do to expand your kitchen, there's money out there to help you with it. In addition, if you have not finished expending your state funds, this is your 2022 KIP funding that was set to need to be, the deadline to spend was June 30th, 2025. We've got another year. All of that to say is, don't wait. Let's start planning now. So some of you have, again, facilities are always challenging with charter schools. Some of you have probably still been trying to figure out the right project to use this money on. Now is the time to start that planning process. Things just take time. And so don't wait, because I would not expect this to be extended again. I think this is a big, a very nice gesture, and hopefully this gives everyone enough time to fully expend their funds. All right, that was the state of California. Let's talk about the state of the USDA. There's been a lot in the news. The National Schools Lunch Program is still intact and still remains the same. Congress did pass a bill that requires drastic cuts to SNAP and Medicaid. This will impact how we see our students directly certified, and so our numbers may change over the next few years. This doesn't take effect until January, but I would expect that, moving into the next school year, this could have impacts on who can apply for CEP, who needs to complete FRL applications. All of that to say is School Food Solutions will be, these are already services we've been supporting you with. We will provide you updates along the way. And we'll let you know when we think things are going to more drastically impact you. We do have some positive news out from the USDA, and that is there's more money coming to your schools. They just released the reimbursement rates. What I'm showing, so there's a couple of different tiers. We'll be able to confirm your rates with you for sure when you get your first claim. But in general, if you If you're a school that's been serving more than 60% free and reduced lunch students, this is what your rates will look like going into this next school year. Schools that are in higher income areas might see slightly lower overall rates, but the percentages are about the same. It's a 17-cent increase at the federal level. That's roughly 3.6%. That's great news. That's just great news. That's more money for every lunch you serve. We're seeing a 9 to 10 cent increase with breakfast, depending on what breakfast level you serve at. The California state funding remains flat. It went up a penny and a half, but that was already fairly high. That's the additional 99 cents you're getting on your meal served. Now, again, you're still backfilled to have everything paid at the free or reduced level, or sorry, at the free level. So here is your sort of net totals you can expect in California if you're at the 60% or more tier. That equates to, if students are eating breakfast and lunch at your school, you are getting an additional 28 cents a day. That's great. That's money that you can put back into your program, into your facilities. It'll cover, obviously, food prices went up. Your vendors increased your meal rates by CPI, which was about in that 3.6 range as well. And so this helps net out those costs there. So all in all, good news. We are seeing reimbursement increases for the National School Lunch Program. We're also seeing there is a series of final rules that came out. These are the legislative adjustments that impact the National School Lunch Program. This one, I think this is going to be welcomed. We finally are seeing caps on added sugar. And so breakfast cereals can have no more than 6 grams of added sugar. Yogurts will have no more than 12, and flavored milk will have no more than 10 per 8-ounce serving. My understanding is all of the dairies in California are already in compliance with this. For things like cereals and yogurts, one thing that might change with your vendors, they may have to buy different products this year to meet these requirements, or the products they're buying may be reformulated to meet these requirements. All of that to say is your yogurts might taste a little different, and your sugar varieties might change, or your cereal varieties may change. This is not your vendor doing it. This is the USDA rules, and this is your vendor staying in compliance with those. In addition, this is a bigger one. The NSLP snack meal pattern has changed. This is a big one because your snack may look different this year. They've eliminated grain-based desserts, and so with the exception of like a sweet cracker, like a Teddy Graham or something like that, we may not see cookies or granola bars at snack anymore. Fruits and vegetables are now separate meal components, so there is a possibility you might see vegetables added into snack. But one of the things that is going to be very limiting is now juice can only be served as 50% are your fruit and vegetable offerings. So if you're serving juice one day, you need to serve a serving of whole fruit. And that's a little bit more challenging because at the snack level, it's not a half cup serving, it's a 3/4 cup serving, and there's just less options available out there. All of that to say is, if you see your snack menu change or seem reduced this year, it probably is the USDA's rules have tightened down on that. And so it's going to be challenging. We're hoping that manufacturers and some of the people that are making these food products catch up with these rules. But so far, we're going to be more limited on what we can offer for snack. Finally, and I think this is a positive note, they've expanded how you can credit both meat alternates and vegetables for breakfast. So one day a week, you can substitute a vegetable one day a week at breakfast for one of your fruit offerings. Or if you want to do it 2 or more days a week, you just need to choose 2 different vegetable subgroups. Now, we are not choosing those. This is the vendor menuing these things, but you may see these options come up as choices, right? So this could be potatoes with eggs at breakfast. This could be beans in a bean and cheese burrito, or egg and cheese burrito at breakfast. It's more variety, and I think this is great, and I think it's great to work. We always, especially when fruit is out of season, we always get just overwhelmed with yellow oranges that are hard to peel, right? And so I think having more flexibility on what we can credit in the morning will hopefully you'll see more variety at breakfast. Another rule, which I think is important to note, this is not something you will be tracking necessarily, although it is your vendors. You may need to provide this in an audit, and it would be your vendor's responsibility to track. Is that no more than 10% of our food dollars can go towards non-domestic foods. The good news in California, there's been a big push to buying local. And also, we're just a state that can produce a lot of food. We grow a lot of things here. And so we are in an advantage of being able to purchase domestically. That's not the case everywhere, but just know that that is a requirement of the meal program and a requirement that your vendor will be following. This is part of your contract that they observe these rules. Finally, and we're going to talk in a lot of detail about this if you have more questions, but for meal modifications, again, this is what requires the family to get a note from the doctor. They've loosened the rules to also allow a registered dietitian to sign off on these, which I think is great because not everyone has a doctor that's easy to go see. And so if there's someone else that can make these diagnoses and assessments, that's just more flexibility for families. And again, it gets you the information you need to make meal accommodations to support your kiddos. All right, that's our updates. Any questions there before we move on? All right, well, let's talk about back to school. Thumbs up or thumbs down? Who feels ready for the first day of school? Oh, I got a hand up. Yes, question. Or was that a...
Sorry, I was trying to put that, yes, I'm ready.
Good. Glad. If you're unsure, which it sounds like a lot of us might be, here's a couple of things. Here's kind of the real short checklist. Oh, Myra's ready. Thank you. Number one, we got to place our orders with our vendor. They're probably going to ask us to place for the whole month of August. Also, it's 8/15. They may ask us to place for September too. Let's get those orders in. Again, we'll talk more about this in our sort of management section in the end, but put your orders in now. Let them know how much food they need to buy. If you need to adjust them up or down, you'll have some flexibility later, but if they don't know you need food, they're not going to bring you food, right? So that's important, number one. Also, if you didn't run summer school, or even if you did, you might not have logged into your point of sale. Well, you might not know where that computer is. Find the computer, find the charger, make sure if your tech team updated the Wi-Fi password, log on, do your updates, right? Nothing's worse than opening your computer and then have it just automatically start doing an update, like a security update, right? Start to get your binder organized. You've got all your MPRs from last year. You don't need those you need to save those. You don't need to keep them in the same binder. Put them in a file cabinet because you're probably not going to reference them unless you're going through an audit. Make sure the kitchen's prepared. Where's your thermometer, right? Like, do we have our thermometer? Do we have our soap, paper towels, gloves, anything we might need? Now's the time of year to restock. Put in that Amazon order or Staples order, get the things you need in your kitchen so you're good to go. Check your fridges, do any deep cleaning that still needs to happen so that you feel that you're ready first day of school. All right. This is the slide we always talk about of what's not. We talked about updates. We talked about, getting ready. This stuff has not changed. There's no rule changes here. All the meals we serve need to make the meal pattern to get reimbursed. We need to complete daily production records. That's a requirement of the USDA to get reimbursed. Your vendor may require you to go onto their website or go onto a shared file and print them off. If you don't have production records, it doesn't mean you don't have to do them anymore. It means we need to figure out where they are so you can print them and you can complete them. And finally, we always need point of sale meal counts. This is most likely done with mealtime at the end of your service line. You may be using paper rosters. You may have some other system, but it is a requirement to count the meals you serve. That has not changed under Free Meals for All. It's at no cost for the families, but we still need to count and claim based on the USDA rules and regulations. So you expect to see this slide every year. I don't expect any of these things to change, and this is always part of a reimbursable meal program. What is also the same is what makes up a reimbursable meal and how we serve it. So, just so we're clear, when I start talking about offer versus serve or milk choice or things like that, here's sort of the basic definitions of what we're looking at. everything starts with meal components. There are 5 food groups that are required to make up a reimbursable breakfast or lunch or snack in a school program. That is a grain, a meat alternate, a fruit, a vegetable, a milk choice. If you don't have all of those, you don't have a reimbursable lunch. Or you're at least not serving a reimbursable lunch. Again, students have choice. Now, we usually don't talk about food and just components. We talk about food items. And so that's a specific food containing one or more of those 5 components, right? Your hot dog is your meat and your grain. Your salad is your vegetable, protein, and grain potentially, right? So we think of food items, and then we'll have things on the side that we'll have choice with. There's two ways to serve kids. There's serve all, straight serve. That's where you offer 5 things, they get 5 things. I don't think any of us on this call do that. It's not a good practice, especially once we start talking about SB 1383. You as the school, as the LEA, are responsible for the organic waste you create. And so let's create as little as possible. And to do that, offer versus serve is the best plan. That's the program or the provision of the National School Lunch Program that allows students to decline up to 2 of the components to minimize their plate waste. If they're not going to eat the vegetable, they don't have to take the vegetable. If they don't want to drink milk, they don't have to take a milk. And so we can then right size what they're actually taking. Finally, we want to put choice in the program where we can. So this could be type of milk is a choice we offer every day, but often we have a choice of fruit and we may have a choice of vegetable. And that's a great way to give students autonomy and actually find something they're going to eat in the lunch line. Now for reimbursable lunches, this should look the same. It may be different, or sorry, it is different at the elementary school, middle school versus the high school level. High school kids are bigger, they get more food, but every day, regardless of what grade, you're offering fruit. At the lower grades, you're offering a half cup serving. At the high school, you're offering a full cup serving. That might be in the form of 2 half cup portions of fruit. Same thing with vegetable. At minimum, at the elementary school level, you're offering 3/4 cup. That may be a half cup vegetable side and a 1/4 cup vegetable mixed into the entree. And at the high school level, you're adding more vegetable, either a larger portion or a choice of vegetable, but you offer a cup daily. Meat alternates, and grains, protein and grains, right? Those are between 1 ounce to 2 ounce offered daily or more. Again, some items just have more, chicken, a large portion of chicken may have more than 2 ounces of protein. You can go over, but we do need to meet our minimums on a weekly basis. That is something, again, you're not doing the menu planning, but your vendor is. And so we want to make sure that we're ordering specifically for our grade groups from our vendor. So some vendors may have different menus for K through 8 and 9 through 12. If you have 6 through 12 on campus, you are ordering off of 2 menus. You have two sets of production records. There's no way around that. That is the USDA rule. You're offering 2 different meal patterns. One thing that is consistent through all meal patterns is choice of milk. We will offer 8-ounce portions of fluid milk daily in either fat-free or 1% varieties. Flavored milk can be in the fat-free style. This is not a dairy requirement or a beverage requirement. This is a fluid milk requirement. And so the bottles of water don't count for this. It's choice of milk, and we have that out at every meal. Breakfast is similar but different. Breakfast, we usually count in items. As you can see, there's less, we have our fruits, vegetables, and grains at minimum. This is what you're seeing every day. Now, we talked about with the USDA updates, you might be able to sub in your meat alternates. This would be, an egg wrap or a yogurt parfait. This could be the bean and cheese breakfast burrito, something like that. I've also seen there's some good breakfast pizzas out there. So you may see a vegetable or you may see a meat alternate subbed in, but at the very least, you've got these 3 things. Every day we're offering a whole cup of fruit. And so that could be either a very large portion of fruit or 2 half-cup servings. Students only need to take 1 half-cup serving of fruit, that's the minimum, and 2 other items. A lot of times for breakfast, that could be a large muffin and an apple. That could be a string cheese, a cereal, and an orange. That could be a milk, an orange, and a cereal. As long as you've got 3 items and one's a fruit or vegetable, it's a reimbursable breakfast. questions there. Again, hopefully this is not new information. We've got those other recorded trainings if you want to go into more detail about offer versus serve, but these are the bare bones basics. Any other meal pattern questions before we move on to competitive foods? Wonderful. We got about, this is great. And we'll have time for more questions at the end. So write stuff down. We can, I'll stay on to answer questions at the end of this. All right. Let's talk competitive foods. This is a safe space. No one's going to get in trouble here. Does your school sell food on campus? Because, and you can be honest, because we can talk about what's allowable and what's not allowable. So who's selling food other than your reimbursable meals? And this would include fundraisers. What do you do for fundraisers? Well, let's talk about first what the definition of a competitive food is. So competitive foods are all food and beverages sold to students on a school campus during the school day other than your reimbursable meals. So if you're serving anything from midnight the day before, so that's all of the morning, till 30 minutes after school, right? So 30 minutes after your final bell, if it's being sold, it's considered a competitive food. This would be anywhere where students have access to, and this includes vending machines. Now, what this wouldn't include is if there's a teacher vending machine in the teacher's lounge that only the teachers have access to, that's okay. That would not count as a competitive food because students would not have access to it. But if it's out in the open, whether it's turned on or off at lunchtime, right? It's anytime during the school day, that's a competitive food. Now, you can sell competitive foods on campus. They just need to meet the USDA Smart Snack guidelines. Here's the guideline here. I don't expect you to write all of this down, but what I want you to take away is that these are foods that meet a certain threshold of nutrition. They're limited on calories, capped on sodium, capped on fat, capped on sugar, and the portion size is regulated, right? So like the supersized bag of chips would not, even of a baked variety, would not be a smart snack. How do you know what qualifies? There's, you may see it advertised as smart snack. There's plenty. Again, listen, everyone's trying to sell stuff to schools, so you can go on Amazon and they have a whole smart snack store. Just because it's labeled smart snack does not guarantee it's compliant. You always want to use the Healthier Generation calculator. You want to take the actual nutrition label from the product, not one that was just downloaded online. You want to enter in the calories and the other required measurements from the nutrition facts label, and the Healthier Generation smart snack calculator will spit you out a yes or no answer. If the answer is yes, it's compliant, I'd print that out and put that in your nutrition files, because that means you're allowed to sell that on campus. If it's not compliant, that, this also helps you, because again, usually you're just trying to serve your reimbursable meals, right? But this could be a club, a student, a teacher, a parent asking about a fundraiser or asking about selling on campus. And again, we want to help fundraise. We want to support student clubs, and this is a helpful way to give them a clear answer, right? I can't let you sell that because it doesn't meet the smart snack guidelines, or yes, it does meet the smart snack guidelines. We'll let you sell that after meal service is over, right? You can also dictate those rules. I think that you can summarize that. If they want to sell something that is not compliant, all you have to tell them is save it for after school, right? These rules end 30 minutes after the bell. So your crab feeds, your spaghetti potlucks, your banquet nights, things like that are hosted after school, even if they're hosted on campus, they're after the bell, they're 30 minutes after school, and those don't comply either, or those are not considered competitive foods. That's okay. You're welcome. Again, there's I want to get your clubs to a yes, right? Like, we can help you raise money to go on your field trips, to buy your computers, whatever you're looking to do. And so School Food Solutions has resources. So whether it's fundraising ideas, non-food rewards, and we'll send a summary email out after this that I believe has some of those attached to it. And if you get a question where you're interested, but not sure, you feel like it's in a gray area, check in with us. We're happy to help you evaluate it, and we're happy to help you either come up with alternatives, formulate a response, or get you the backup to clear it so that you know that it's allowable to do when you want to sell those foods. Questions on smart snacks. One of the things I didn't talk about here is smart snacks are only for foods, again, that are sold on campus. So this does not include giveaways, birthday parties, prizes, things like that. We'll talk about that when we get to the wellness policy section. But again, things that are either brought from home, so like students pack their own lunches and bring them in, or that are given away. Now you can still have school rules about those, but their USDA does not regulate those as competitive foods. Let's talk about wellness policies, because your wellness policy could regulate those. All right. So good news, you have one of these. When we started, when we took you through your first audit, and when you started as an SFA with us, we helped you draft one of these based on the Alliance for Healthier Generations model policy protocol. Whether that got shelved or whether that got updated, who knows, right? Some of these go straight to the Dropbox folder and saved forever. Some schools have done revisions annually on these. Wherever you're at, now is the time to think about what your next steps for. So let's talk about the wellness policy. It is a requirement of the National School Lunch Program. All schools must have a written document that guides the efforts to establish a healthy school environment and promote health, well-being, and the ability to learn. So this is more than just like reimbursable lunch. This can be, PE, mental health. This can be all things that your school considers wellness, and you can add to the policy to make it fit what your school actually does. But it should include, at the minimum, specific goals for nutrition promotion, education, physical activity, and other school-based activities. It should reference the standards and nutrition guidance for all food and beverages sold to students. Again, that's already laid out as the smart snacks. Standards for all food and beverages provided but not sold to students. This is where you can really modify your policy to meet your norms, standards, and expectations at your school, right? If you don't want Uber Eats to be able to be delivered, you can make that a rule. Again, we're offering breakfast and lunch every day, so it's okay if you don't want to allow Uber Eats to be, or Grubhub to be delivered to campus. If you want to limit junk food that comes on campus, this is a policy. You could write it into this policy. If you want to limit teachers from being able to use candy as rewards in classrooms or food as incentives, this would be where you could detail out the parameters in this wellness policy. As well as you can come up with your policies of how food and beverages can be marketed to students, right? And descriptions of how you can be involved and help shape this policy. This is something that does need to be, it's public. It should be posted in your cafeteria and on your website. We have a draft for you, and we're happy to help you redraft it if you're looking to make changes. We also have templates for your wellness committee. So here's sort of if you are ready to reevaluate or revise your wellness policy, you do that through your local wellness committee. This is something that should be made up of multiple stakeholders, students, parents, staff, even your food vendor may choose to participate. This is something that will likely meet twice per year or more, depending on your schedule and commitment to and involvement. The idea is that you're setting wellness goals and checking progress towards those annually. This is also a great place for parents and students to share feedback, not just for your meal program, but your overall wellness policies and procedures for your school as a whole. It's also something that does not need to be managed directly from the kitchen, right? So, you may be in charge of serving food, you may be in charge of operations, but you may not be the best parent, student, family-facing liaison. This is an area where you may tap the ASB, your PTA, deans, vice principals. Other folks may be involved in this one to better communicate with parents, families, and teachers. And again, so this is, let's get the right people at the table and then that'll be much easier to shape your policy. Whatever you have, you do need to do a periodic revision to it. And so that is your triennial assessment. These were first due in 2021, but we had waivers because of COVID. It wasn't in 2021, we weren't getting a lot of like multi-stakeholder groups together to revise policies. It just wasn't happening. So there was multiple extensions. Some schools did do them on the schedule. Some schools deviated from the schedule. The idea is that you should be doing these at minimum once every 3 years. And so if you have not done one in 3 years, now is your year to do one. If you haven't done one at all, now is your year to do one. And so that's something that you'd want to start planning and scheduling for the fall. We can share resources for you, but the idea is I look at this as a deeper dive and revision in your policy. You'll want to, usually you'll complete an assessment. You'll compare this to other policies from, comparative schools, and you'll do a deep evaluation on the progress you've made towards your wellness goals. Again, this is not something you're reporting the progress out to the public, but if you didn't make progress, that's okay. We want to, I like to think of it as we're going to deal with reality on reality's terms, right? If this is not something that we've been able to put energy into, that's okay. Let's set goals that are achievable, and let's work on those, over realistic periods of time, right? And so this doesn't need to be switched to all local organic procurement over the next 6 months. This could be, help students, choose fruits or vegetables in the line, increase PE participation by 5%, hand out water bottles and include water bottles, drinking water during the day. This could be stretching standing breaks in class, like twice a week, right? What's achievable? What does your school want to do? What do you think is important? What do you think is achievable? You can set your own goals here. Questions for wellness policies, wellness committees, or triennial assessments. Again, you've got a policy somewhere. If you don't know where it is, ask us. We've at least got a draft for you. If you're ready to do your TEA or your wellness committee meeting, we can help you plan out those agendas and give you ideas to do it. And if you're unsure of goals, let's have a conversation. Any questions? All right, we're making great time. Let's keep moving along. It's Friday. Everyone wants to be done, right? Medical meal accommodations. I feel like this is an area that always is confusing. Vendors have different procedures. So I really want to spend some time here because I think we're also hearing more requests in this area. So let's talk about what this is, what this isn't, what to do when you have one. All right. The USDA requires all SFAs, that's us, that's the school, to provide accommodations for students with disabilities in the school meal program. Now, this could be any disability. Most commonly we're talking about food allergies, but this could be other things that might be dictated in your IEPs or 504 plans. Could be any disability in this category. For food allergies, those will also generally be considered a disability. This does not have to be life-threatening. It needs to be something that would just impair major bodily function or other major life activities. Again, if a kid has a really bad stomach ache, they're not going to learn. We want to make accommodations so that they can have a healthy meal and focus in class, right? One thing I see at schools, which can get confusing this time of year, is there's usually two parallel processes that may be happening, and sometimes the wires get a little crossed. So let's talk about what might be happening and talk about what we need to kind of focus on the around the noise. So one thing that happens in your most schools' enrollment packets, and if you're lucky enough to have a nurse on campus, this might be something that the nurse's office will be tracking, is that schools will survey families about health, medicine, and general allergies. So this might be a form, like is that an enrollment packet or a survey that goes home. This would be everything from, the questions around asthma, right? PE accommodations. Are they have allergies to things like penicillin, latex, pollen? Do they need to take medicine at school, and what frequency, and how do they do that? That is all very important information. You still want to collect that. That should be held likely in your front office with your nurse in your student information system. That may not be relevant to the meal program. What is relevant to the meal program is, and this is kind of the other piece of this, is for families that have a documented disability and are requesting us to provide a special meal. This is where we're talking about having them bring in a doctor's note or a signed medical statement from a state licensed healthcare professional, with notes, with information about how we should modify their meal. Now, again, if you have a student that has celiac disease but is not requesting a meal accommodation, right? So there's plenty of students with an allergy that say, this allergy is terrible. I know what I can eat, I know what I can't eat, and my parents pack it from home. That's okay. That's not, but if they do say, I have an allergy, I can't have certain things, and I'd like the kitchen to accommodate, those are the two things we need to start the process to accommodate. And we do that through the CDE medical meal statement is a pretty easy form. We request families to take their doctor. Again, remember now registered dietitians can also sign these. This easily tracks all the information that USDA requires us to have, both explaining the disability, explaining the accommodation, talking about foods that should be omitted and suggested substitutions. And then we work with our vendor to make an accommodation that meets this form. Some vendors want to see this form. Some vendors just want you to keep it on file. Even if your vendor doesn't ask for it, you're still required to have this during an audit. These will be reviewed. There's a new one on CNIPS. I'll send it out in our email today, but you can always download it from CNIPS. If you have old forms already printed, I'd discard those and replace with these new ones. It's also something you can update on your school website. This is not something you need to necessarily backpack home to all students, unless you know that there's a student that is requesting an accommodation. I'd make sure that this form gets to them. What's not new in this process is that the SFA is required to make this. If we receive a request, we're required to make the special meal accommodation at no extra charge to the student. So it may cost us more, whether through our vendor or if we have to go to the store to buy this meal, but we can't pass that along to the families. This meal is still considered, it's still at no cost to the student. All right, let's talk about best practices, and we'll get into sort of some common questions here. So first, use that state form. That's the one that the state has designed to meet the USDA requirements. It's also something that the doctor's probably used to seeing, and so make it available, keep it posted on the website, or in places where they may ask for it. So I'd have if someone comes through our service line and says, I can't eat this, I have a blank, I would say, oh, well, we'll want to make sure we can get you a meal you can eat. Take this form home for your parent and doctor to fill out, right? Schools, we want to wait till we want to receive that form. We're required to have that on file. We should not make modifications based off of word of mouth substitutions, right? If I need to know exactly what we're substituting for, what the student should have and what they shouldn't have. And so we want to make sure we get that in writing. We want to establish a system for collecting these, right? So what that is probably going to look like is maybe your school nurse, your food service director. If you should send them to School Food Solutions, we can help you update your point of sale. So that pop-up comes up when the student comes through the line to remind you, oh, this student's getting a different meal. You'll also want to likely send it to your vendor. Again, not all are requiring it, but they're going to want to see what they're being asked to modify as well. And we want to make sure everyone's on the same page. Ultimately, so if, things can change, so we should communicate with the families early and often, or if the form is unclear, it's the SFA's obligation to work with the families to understand what the need is. If you're not sure, if you receive one of these and you're not sure what direction to go in, let's chat. We can help give you next steps and the questions to ask to make sure you get the guidance to make sure that you're accommodating the student and making sure they got a safe meal to eat. First question I think is very common is, can an SFA decline to provide a meal modification? And it's almost never appropriate to. If we have a documented disability, we will find a way to accommodate that student and make sure they have food to eat. If you have questions, we can talk through that. What if the medical meal statement doesn't provide sufficient information? Well, we should reach back out to the parent or guardian or call the doctor's office directly. However, an incomplete form doesn't release us from responsibility, right? So if we know that should be accommodating something, we should work to make that accommodation while we're working to complete the form, right? And so a lot of times we have enough information to get started, and we should start making that accommodation as soon as we can, and then dot the I's and cross the T's as we go. Oh, but what about preferences? So again, these are for documented disabilities, allergies, intolerances with a signed doctor's note. SFAs are not required to accommodate meal preferences, but SFAs are encouraged to select a menu that satisfies the preferences of their population. So if you may choose to not order during Lent, you may not order fish items, right? Again, there's not a ton of fish sticks on the menu, but you see those, and that would be a week not to, or a week to order those, I guess. If you have a lot of students that are vegetarians, I think every vendor out there has a meatless option daily. So that would be a beef and bean burrito and a bean and cheese burrito. That would be pepperoni pizza, cheese pizza. There's plenty of students that aren't vegetarians that would enjoy a veggie option. And so we can just put those on our menu just in general to accommodate. And in many cases, your meal vendor may already accommodate the preferences. So most menus are peanut free, with the exception of maybe like a sun butter sandwich. But honestly, I've seen more sunflower seed or Uncrustables, I guess, would have peanut butter. Some butter would have a sunflower seed butter. I've also seen, I know some vendors have a chickpea based sandwich. So a lot of times peanuts are already out of the menu. Pork is usually not in most child nutrition food just because the sodium's high. So a lot of pizzas are actually turkey pepperoni or turkey sausage crumble on breakfast items. There's a push to pull the gelatin out of breakfast cereals, but there's lots of cereals that don't have gelatin in it. And so you can provide, marshmallow again, everyone likes the marshmallows, but that could be one concern. But for the most part, there's a lot of options already from your vendor that will accommodate your ethnic, religious, or vegetarian preferences or needs. And so we can do that already. We don't need a medical form, and that's not what the medical form's used for. Questions there? We said a lot, but hopefully that helps sort of shine a light on that process and what you need to, what conversations to have with families at the beginning of the school year. Slide here, I think I slipped, kind of went over quickly. So let me talk about it again. So other questions. How often do these medical statements need to be updated? That it is not a yearly requirement. I think some vendors may ask for that. We just need to ensure we have the most updated information on file. So, for example, celiac disease is a genetic condition. If you have it, unfortunately, you're probably not getting rid of it. We don't need a form annually to reconfirm what we already know. You may check in with the family just to ask if there's any updates, but as long as we have updated it, as long as the medical statement reflects the most current dietary needs, we don't need an additional medical statement. If you have other conversations with those families, I might have it confirm with email, or if it's by phone, put notes and save those in the file, right? So we can say we check in, we keep those up to date. But for things that aren't evolving, we don't need to require a new form. However, again, allergies change, especially with little kids. They may have more, they may have less. If they are discovering that they have new allergies, we may want the family to go get an updated medical form just so we have the most up-to-date information and we're making the proper accommodations. But also kids grow out of allergies. And so if they do, we don't need them to go to the doctor to say they don't have the allergy anymore. We just want documentation from the family saying that they're no longer requesting that accommodation. If we keep that on file, that's enough for our records. Any other questions here on medical forms? Wonderful. All right, let's talk vendor and order management real quick. There's three cooks in this kitchen, if you will. So you as the SFA, you're the school, you're the ultimate owner of the food service program. You're also the one that's doing most of the work on a day-to-day basis, right? You're receiving the food, you're heating the food, you're serving the food, you're doing the paperwork, you're attending the trainings like today. Thank you for coming. And then you're also communicating feedback both back to the vendor and to School Food Solutions. School Food Solutions is here. We're remote, but we check in with you on a periodic basis. We do a lot of paperwork in the background, whether that's your annual applications in CNIPS or processing your free and reduced lunch applications in mealtime. We also submit state reporting periodically throughout the year. We're also compiling your meals served from your point of sale system and submitting your monthly claims. We also do CEP and eligibility maintenance. So that could be, doing an LCFF audit or running your CEP numbers in the spring. And so we also can serve as a liaison between you and the vendor, right? Sometimes things aren't going right, but you don't know the questions to ask. We can help facilitate those conversations. And finally, for you that are in an audit year, we help you with audit support, right? That is when we push in, you see us on site. We're training offer versus serve, with real food at the point of sale. We're communicating with the auditor. We're prepping your audit box. We do a lot of that paperwork on the back end. We aren't cooking or serving the food, though. That's your vendor, at the very least, is cooking and delivering the food. Their whole job and why we contract with them is to provide compliant meals. They know the meal pattern. They know how to purchase the things. They know how to formulate the recipes and how to track everything. They also deliver it to us. They're either delivering it hot or cold, and we're heating on site, or we're holding it hot and serving it warm. They may attend check-in meetings. They'll be the best to answer questions about their meal, their process, their combinations, offer versus serve, things like that. And they're also, we structure your RFPs and your contracts so that we have a clear expectation of how they're going to work with us and what they're going to bring us, right? And so they are required to service compliant meals, or we're not going to pay for them. And that's something we can help you along the way to make sure you are receiving proper compliant meals. With all of that, sometimes we just have lots of extra. So I think the most common thing I hear about is leftover fruit. So does anyone have a lot of leftover fruit on their site? And has anyone found has anyone successfully been able to reduce how much fruit they have? Well, there's a whole bunch of different things that could lead to having extra. Extra is just not helpful, right? Extra is just food we need to then carry somewhere else. I don't want anyone to hurt their back. I don't want anyone to have to stay late. So let's talk about ways that we can manage our orders to maximize what we're getting reimbursed and minimize the food waste. So first is fruit and offer versus serve. The biggest culprit for extra fruit is breakfast, because no matter what grade level, whether we've got TKers or 12th graders, we offer them a whole cup of fruit. Even at the TK level, but even at the high school level, 2 apples is a lot of fruit to eat in the morning, especially if we have a 15-minute meal break. So they're probably not going to take the whole cup, and they don't have to. With offer versus serve, they only need to take a half cup of fruit. And so what we want to make sure is that we're only menuing enough to give students the option to take both, but not doubling the fruit we're putting out on the service line. So an example of that would be, if we intend to serve 100 students, we know that we're at least going to serve 100 pieces of fruit. They can't go through our line and take that meal unless they take 1/2 cup serving of fruit at breakfast. But some may choose to take more, and we just need to figure out what that number is. Might be 120, might be 130, but it's probably not 180 or 200, right? So if your vendor's giving you 200% fruit for breakfast, that would technically be compliant, but it's not helpful. That's too much. Milk is in the same, and that applies, lunch too with vegetables. We need to offer each student the choice of a fruit, vegetable, or both. But if we know that students tend to take more fruits than vegetables, we don't need 100% fruit, 100% vegetable. We might actually need 80% fruit and 40% vegetable. And that will give a mix of fruit, vegetables, and both. but not extra where we're just swimming in. Because again, then we have to go do something with it. Milk is the same way too, because milk is required for us to offer every day, but there's no benefit for us having more milk than we need. And again, milk smells when it gets thrown in the trash can and goes bad, right? So we want the right amount of milk. So if you are fully stocked on milk, it's okay for you to tell your driver, please don't deliver any milk today. Now, they probably will not take milk they've already given you, right? Like it's kind of once it goes in your fridge, it can't come back out. But this is why it's important to check in the orders with the vendor at the time of delivery. You want to make sure the temperatures are accurate. You want to make sure the delivery is accurate. But also, if there's things you don't need, let them take it back. It doesn't cost you or save you any money, but it just saves you time and waste. Again, on that same note, knowing your meal pattern, especially for our junior high school combos or our K through 12 schools, your high school meals, they're going to send more fruit and vegetable, but you may not need all of that. And if your K through 12 entrees or your K through 12 meals are doubling your fruits and vegetables, again, that's what the meal pattern requires us to offer, but we may not need full quantities of all of those. You just need enough to be able to offer students a full cup of vegetable and full cup of fruit, which might be two fruit choices, two vegetable choices. As long as you have enough to achieve that, having extra doesn't help. Because again, you're getting more food each day. Things start to spoil. We want to serve the new stuff while it's fresh. And again, last one is if we just have too many extra entrees, that means we're just over ordering in general. With a vended meal model, we pay for what we order, but we only get paid back for what we serve. So those numbers, we're never accurate enough to get those numbers as even, and we're not trying to, right? We always want to have enough food. So if one last student runs up to the line, we want to be able to serve them. But we don't want to have, 20, 30% extra food. That's just it's unnecessary, and then we have to do something with it. Most vendors are asking you to place your orders in month-long blocks, right? So you're placing 4 weeks of orders at a time. That's to help them forecast, help them make fridge space, help them place orders with their suppliers. Although you can always adjust those usually on a 72-hour to 5-day basis. So on Monday, if you realize I ordered way too much, you may not be able to adjust Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday's orders, but you may be able to adjust Friday and next Monday's. Pull those down. Again, it's not helpful to have extra food. And if you do save some of that extra food, it's just going to grow and grow and grow until you don't have any room in your fridge. Work with your vendor to right size your orders. They listen, they want to sell food, but they don't want food to go straight to the landfill. It's not healthy. Takes up room on their truck. It takes up room in your fridge. They want to right size with you as well. We want the right amount of food at your school sites. Again, with that being said, students do not have to take a milk. We just offer 2 types of milk daily. So if you only need 50% milk, right? So what that might look like is if I plan to serve 100 entrees, but not all of my students take a milk, I might need 40 chocolate milks and 10 1% milks. And if that's enough, if we don't run out in the service line, then that's okay. Because again, we offer milk, but students don't have to take it. Milk is also something that will last in the fridge a little bit longer, better than like a sandwich or a salad. So, if you never pull it out, you can save it to the next day. Finally, we are in charge of waste. So the less we create, the less we have to manage. There is now the state law, Senate Bill 1383, which requires schools to divert organic waste, either recover it and find a way to reserve it. Again, not in your meal program necessarily, but it could be donating it to a pantry or food bank, or divert it and put it into a organic waste bin for industrial composting. This law has been in effect for a year now or more. You can expect random audits from either your county or your waste provider. They may come look in your trash cans, and we may have a follow-up conversation about that. The easiest way to stay in compliance with this rule is to just not create the waste in general. So again, do the things we just talked about. Number one, have a shared table. It's a great option for students to be able, if a student, again, they can't take the entree without a fruit or vegetable. If they say, there's no world I'm going to eat this fruit, that's fine. They'll have it on their tray when they leave your point of sale, but they could put it on a shared table. Someone else can eat that, or it can be donated to someone else who wants it. We can allow milk choice. So if you are not currently doing offer versus serve, and again, I don't think there's anyone on this call that isn't, but we should be doing offer versus serve, and you should allow choice. If kids don't plan to drink the milk, they don't need to take it. We can adjust our fruit and vegetable percentages. We can right size our orders, right? There's no benefit in having extra because it's just more we have to manage. We manage our orders on a weekly basis. So if we need to go up, let's raise them. Let's make sure every kid has the option to take a meal if they want it. But if we have too many extra, let's reduce that. And then we can donate or divert food that is still edible. And that is reaching out to churches, food banks, shelters nearby. A lot of times they'll come pick that food up from you. So you just need to set it in a certain place to be picked up and track what you're donating. All right. In addition, monitoring is something the SFA is required to do. The USDA requires each SFA to monitor all of their lunch services, 50% of their breakfasts, and snack, both at the beginning of the school year within the first 4 weeks of snack service, and again at some point throughout the school year. The goal is really to have these complete by February 1st. That's when the due date is for the USDA. And again, if you don't get them done by February, you don't get the feedback to your teams of anything you might have found that was out of compliance. If you do find things that are out of compliance, you do need to do another visit within 30 days. School Food Solutions can help. The easiest way is if you can take photos and video of your meal service in your meal service area. We can help you complete this form virtually, and also give you feedback on your service. This is something that is downloadable from CNIPS, and is again, if you're able to get out to your sites more often, you can do as many of these as you want. Again, the minimum is 1 lunch service, half your breakfast service, and your snack service twice a year. Finally, vendor and order management. So we talked a lot about, what you can add, adjusting meal orders, things like that. This is a partnership between you and your vendor. That it's only going to be successful if you're communicating with them, you build a good relationship with them, and you form a partnership, right? Because again, they want to serve you meals, but there's also things that there's some things that are easier for them to do than others, but ultimately they want you to be happy with the food. And so if you have menu feedback, food quality issues, delivery challenges, right? Let's talk to them, because they might be able to make either changes to the menu, changes to the delivery time. Also, they may be able to help you troubleshoot with, is it an oven issue that's not holding proper temperature? Is it sort of a storage issue either in their van or at our site, right? There's a lot of wiggle room in the middle to increase food quality and satisfaction of the program. And so we should be having good faith conversations with our vendors to try to work those pieces out. In addition, if you're not seeing the variety you want, let's talk to the vendor, right? Let's see, maybe it could be investing in equipment so that they can bring in cut fruit or things like that to us. Maybe it's fine-tuning our cooking and heating times. Every oven is a little different, especially if you've got an older one. And so maybe we just need to heat it a little longer or heat it a little lower, right? And so vendors have seen all of these devices. They can help you troubleshoot yours. Again, they know their menu best. So if you want to do offer versus serve, you want to minimize your food waste, but you're not sure how your components credit, let's talk to, they've got dietitians, they've got nutrition staff. They can really help you understand their menu and also how to just do it well, right? They put a lot of thought into it. And so if you're unsure, they can help you out. Also, between equipment, whether that's fine tuning, purchasing, renting, they can help there. And they can also help you with marketing, right? Signage, promotions, best practices, special meal days. Vendors are really, again, really trying to work with schools to help increase participation. We're very fortunate in the state of California. Our reimbursement rates are high. And so it's a win-win for everyone. And so they're finding unique ways to serve you. So that could be barbecue days, that could be hot chocolate bars, that could be special treats for holidays. There's a lot of interesting stuff that's happening out there. And if you're not seeing it, or if you don't know how to roll it out, that's a conversation to have with your vendor. And we're happy to be a part of that as well. We did it. We're at the end. So in summary from today, hopefully you have a better idea or a reminder of how School Food Solutions is here to support your schools, right? And also the team that, in addition to Claire and myself, that are here that can answer your questions, and how to reach out to us to get responses quickly. Again, we know you're doing a lot. We know you need this information fast, and that's what we're here for. Hopefully you have an understanding of the state and federal updates and how those are changing and how those impact your meal programs, or at the very least, how those might change what your vendor is delivering to you and things that you may see different things that may be different on the first day of school. We also talked about first day basics. If you have more questions there, let's set up a call. We can happy to really talk specifics about your school. You can reach out to us. You can see my calendar in my email signature and schedule a time with me. I'm around the rest of August because I know everyone's busy and has questions, so I will be as available as I can to all of you. We then did a deep dive into wellness policies, meal accommodations, and competitive food rules. Those are all things that are part of the program and we need to be in compliance with, and hopefully you understand those better, or at the very least, you understand when, if you get murmurings around your school of one of those, when to raise your hand and ask questions, right? Because we can support you through those conversations. And finally, I don't want anyone carrying things around and then carrying things around again. And so if we can manage your orders, work with your vendors, if we can ultimately serve more food to kids, your program is going to be more successful. And I think that's my last note here for everyone today is everything works better at scale, right? And so none of us are as big as LAUSD or San Francisco USD or Oakland USD, right? We may be a single site charter, 2 or 3 schools. It really is important for us to maximize to make this program successful, because there's a world where if participation drops low enough, we can't find a vendor to serve us. And that's a real bummer of a place to be in, because it just limits options for our meal program, limits options for our students. And so the more we grow, the more we can grow our program. And so I want to make sure that anyone that would like to participate can. So I think a couple of things to just remember. These meals are for everyone. There is no income requirement to participate in this program, and every student gets food at no cost. Regardless of family income, the meals served to any student helps the school financially. This is bringing revenue into your program. And again, no one ever gets rich off of meal service, but this protects other budgets, right? So if your meal program runs a deficit, that's money that gets taken away from field trips, from art, from extracurriculars. So by having a healthy food budget and food program, we protect funding in other areas. These also help parents at all income levels. I don't care how rich you are. If you have to run to the store to get food on a Sunday night, that is annoying, right? No one wants to do that. And so having the option to have breakfast and lunch daily and know that it's healthy is a great relief for families, and they should feel comfortable participating at our program at our school. This also aids learning, improves education outcomes, and reduces behavior issues at all ages. No one's doing their best when they have an empty stomach, and they don't have to, right? We've got 2 to 3 meal services every day. That's awesome. And again, it's at no cost to the students or families. And these are one of the few restaurants that actually has to meet a very rigorous health and nutrition standards. These meals are healthy. And so you can feel good offering these to your students and families. And my final line is, if I didn't convince you with all of that, it's in Ed Code. We don't have an option. And with charter schools, again, we're always trying to stay in the good graces of our regulators, and don't let this be the thing that gets you dinged on your charter renewal, right? This is the law. So we want to make a good faith effort to comply with all of it. Look at us go. We finished.